It can be confusing whenever you're striving to be a gentle parent and yet your child is acting out. There's a lot of advice out there for gentle parents that says we're better off ignoring the misbehavior and just praising all the good. This is true to a certain extent, and so in this video, I'm going to help you to recognize a teaching moment and the moments that are better off ignored. Stay tuned. Up until the age of 7, children are in what we call the programming years, or the formative years. At this stage of their lives, they are running primarily from their subconscious. So a lot of the time, our children might be misbehaving, but they're doing it from this subconscious place, and it's not intentional. So even if you have told them 1,000 times and they've still done it, it might have been almost like a compulsion. They may have done it almost automatically, and it wasn't because they were being manipulative and actually thought about it and actually thought, oh, mommy doesn't want me to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, it's not necessarily contrived. Young children up till the age of 7, their brain is moving in alpha and theta brainwave cycles. That's the same state as an adult that we enter into during deep hypnosis and deep meditation. They are in this stage of programming where they are highly suggestible, and it is very easy to give them direction and to help them to behave. Okay, so giving direction is really important. And generally, I will say if the behavior is obviously conscious, that's a teaching moment. So you'll recognize that a behavior is obviously conscious if they direct you to it, if they show signs that they want you to see the misbehavior. That was a conscious decision to misbehave in that way. They want you to recognize it so as that you will correct it. They want your opinion on it. They want to, they're waiting to see how you will react. And if you choose to ignore it, then they have learned that that behavior is acceptable. So, and if they learn during the programming years that a certain behavior is acceptable, when they're older, it'll be really difficult for them to unlearn it. It's like programming, like a computer programming. Okay, so if you set these things up at the age 0 to 7, after the age of 7, it's going to be very difficult to change it. If your child does something that is completely unacceptable for you and is not fitting with your family values and what you believe makes a good person, and that's why you want them to become that kind of a person, if it doesn't fit in with your own family's mores and values, and you know that they did it deliberately, well, then you need to correct it. You owe that to your child. It is important that you take the time to speak to them about it. Now, if misbehavior still happens, and quite likely it will, we all make mistakes sometimes, and if your child continues with some sort of deliberate misbehavior, then you can take that opportunity as a teaching moment. Generally, I recommend that you first speak to them about it, and also that you allow the natural consequence of the behavior. So an example might be that if your child is deliberately making a mess in your house, and for you it's important to have a clean and tidy house, and you want this to be a value for your child too. You also want them to learn about hygiene and about keeping a tidy space, and you just feel like this is something that's going to serve them in their adult life, so it's something you want to teach them about. If you're trying to teach your child about this and they are deliberately making a mess, and you know that it's a deliberate behavior because you can see them waiting for you to discover the mess, enticing you to come into the bedroom so that you will discover the mess that they made. If this sort of behavior is happening, you know that it was a deliberate behavior and it came from conscious thought. It didn't come from the subconscious place. And they chose this because they want to see your reaction. Then that is a teaching moment. And in that moment, you can tell them that this is not acceptable. You do not agree with it. It is not the way your home is run. And you can, as a natural consequence, you can say, I'm not going to tidy it, but you need to tidy it. That is a natural consequence in life. We have to tidy up our own mess. And for as long as it is not tidy, you as the parent are going to feel unhappy because this is not the way your home is ran. So the natural consequence for your child is knowing that you are disapproving, and knowing that you are not happy, and knowing that you're not in good form. You're not going to be smiling and laughing with them. You're not going to be playing with them. You're not going to be going out of your way to be kind to them, but you're not going to punish them or purposely making them feel bad either. You're not going to say mean things to them. You're not going to hurt their feelings. You're not going to shame them. You're not going to try and make them feel guilty about what they've done. You're just going to say, okay, I trust that you're going to tidy this mess up because this is unacceptable and we do not live in a home that is messy like this. Allow them to experience the natural consequence. They made the mess. They're going to tidy it up. It's boring and not great fun to have to tidy up. Whenever you're tidying, you can't also be playing. That's unfortunate. Well, you made the mess, so this is the way it is. And this needs to go hand in hand with teaching them. It also needs to go hand in hand with giving them the skills beforehand. So you need to consider the training that goes in beforehand. You need to consider, have I actually taught my child that it's unacceptable to make a mess? If you are angry and you feel like you might get cross and say something harsh, you can deal with this later. There's a lot of people out there who say that the child will not connect it, but they will connect it if it's a natural consequence. If you're going to leave the room in a mess for now, we are going to deal with this later because mommy feels really angry right now. This is unacceptable and I'm going to speak to you about this later. And you can leave it at that and you can go away, you can calm yourself, you can practice some mindfulness maybe or some self-care, maybe make yourself a cup of tea and calm down. And then you can come back to it later. This doesn't work whenever you see the mess, you pretend it's okay because you don't want to get cross right now. You continue smiling and showing your child as though you haven't noticed and you've ignored it. And then later on you decide, actually, that's not how I want to deal with it. Instead, I want to punish her. And your child isn't going to make that connection, and so that's going to feel very unfair for them. So a lot of parents are choosing to ignore behavior because they don't really want to have to deal with the emotional outburst that is likely to happen as a result of discipline and allowing these natural consequences to occur and speaking to your child about behavior that you feel is unacceptable. Now, the emotional outburst isn't the issue. Your child does have to be able to express themselves whenever they feel wronged or whenever they feel this isn't fair. In time, your child is going to realize that it is fair. If already you have the rules set in place very firmly and they understand what the rules are, if you have taken the time to teach them the skills that they need to have in order to be able to live by these rules that you have given them, if you have been empathetic and understanding towards them, and if you are remaining calm and able to speak to them reasonably, there's nothing wrong with correcting their behavior and there's nothing wrong with them having this emotional outburst. You just have to be the leader. You can comfort them whenever they are upset over having to do it or over having to deal with these natural consequences, but they still have to deal with the natural consequences. It may seem counterintuitive to you that you're trying to be a gentle parent and yet you're teaching these hard lessons. But at the end of the day, that's what being a parent is. Being a parent is about being a leader to your child. It's important that you guide them and you have to teach them the ways of the world. Oh, absolutely, remaining empathetic and understanding that a lot of misbehavior is a subconscious misbehavior, and if it is subconscious, then there is no reason to act on it. It is not a teaching moment. This is how you recognize the difference between the teaching moments and the moments that you should ignore. Okay, an example of a moment that you could ignore. Okay, so perhaps the rule in your house is to keep the home tidy. And you have given your child a bag of popcorn. If it was a subconscious behavior, you might see the child turn the bag of popcorn upside down because just out of curiosity, they want to see what it looks like and how it feels for the popcorn to be falling from the bag. Recently, I was running a class and I had my daughter with me. And in front of me, she started turning the popcorn upside down. And I recognized this is a subconscious behavior because she was doing it. She wasn't remembering, she's only 19 months, and she wasn't remembering that at home or other times I've told her not to do that. She just was curious and in the moment and just being a child, being a little toddler. And so she started to empty her popcorn. So I stopped her and I said, no, we're not going to empty the popcorn here now today, okay? The popcorn is just to eat. Please just eat your popcorn. A few minutes later, she had gone and she was sitting behind my back. And I wasn't looking at her, I was busy teaching my class. And a few minutes later, she was to me, she had the popcorn on the ground and she wanted to show me, and she was being playful, and she had the popcorn in her mouth. And she was being playful and trying to show me that she had spilt it out. So this was a perfect example of a child who had made a conscious choice. She had consciously chose to not be in front of me when she was spilling her popcorn, but to go behind me where I wouldn't notice. And then she wanted to see what would my reaction be when I do notice. So I gave her some attention for it, but I didn't spend time giving out to her about it because it wasn't a big deal to me. Consciously, I considered, what is she learning in this moment? Is it going to serve her in the future? Well, to be honest, in the future, if she empties out bags of popcorn, nobody is ever going to be particularly annoyed at her. At the end of the day, this isn't really a teaching moment. It's not really something that we're going to say doesn't serve her, and that it wasn't going to negatively affect her life. And so, as a conscious parent, I was aware that it wasn't a real misbehavior. So this is a good way of being able to recognize a teaching moment. Is the behavior deliberate or isn't it? The behavior for her was not deliberate when she did it originally in front of me, but after I had corrected her and she did it behind my back, that was deliberate behavior. So I hope you found this video helpful. I hope from watching this video you now will understand what I mean when I say a teaching moment, and you will understand which behaviors are okay to be ignored and which ones should be addressed. If you liked the video, please click like. Consider subscribing to the channel because there'll be lots more videos like this. I try and upload videos regularly, so if you want to get notifications whenever I upload a new video, also click the little bell beside the subscribe, and we will talk soon.